Hello ladies, I miss you guys. I hope that you are well. This is my first attempt at making a video, so bear with me. This is the gnocchi video, or gnocchi depending on where you're raised. So I have already boiled the potatoes because it's not very exciting to watch potatoes boil. I have about 8 or so kind of like those cutie sized oranges. So I boiled them until they were soft, until when I stuck them with a fork, they were soft and tender. And now I'm just going to peel them. Now if you have larger potatoes, you can peel them first and cut them smaller. Just that you want everything to be around the same size when you cut it, because that way it'll cook evenly. So, but yeah, you just kind of scrape the skin off. I'm going to go back and clean up some of these other little nubbins later. But the other thing is, obviously, these potatoes have been cooled. So I boiled them earlier, rinsed them in the colander, let them cool in the sink, and now they are cool enough to handle without burning my fingers. And once I get them all peeled, then we're going to start to make the dough. So that's going to be the next step. Alright, so my potatoes have been peeled, and the way that you can mash them is you might have one of these sort of mashery things. You could use a hand mixer if you have a ricer, which is a cooking tool that kind of looks like a giant garlic press. That will also work. Don't use a garlic press, it'll take too long. But you're just going to start to not hit the tripod and smash the potatoes, not the tripod. So I'm going to get these to a nice smooth consistency. I'm going to use all my clay strength to kind of wedge them in. And then we will get to the next step. Alright, so my potatoes are ready. They have been nicely smushed. I'm going to make a little hole in the middle. And I'm going to put 1 egg in there. Kind of scramble that up a little bit. Get some of the potato in there. And about a ½ teaspoon or so of, it's more than a teaspoon, of salt. If you want to put pepper in, that's fine. There's a lot of things that you can add. Some people add grated parmesan cheese or ricotta. But it's up to you. This is just the sort of the basic starter gnocchi, and just sort of it gives you the basics, and then once you know that, you can take it from there. So I have the egg mixed in, and I'm going to start with the flour next. Okay, so the egg is combined. I like to kind of get the egg, make sure the egg is well blended, so you don't end up with some weird scrambled egg pocket in your little dumplings. And I'm going to start to add the flour. So about 2 cups of flour. Going to kind of slowly add that in. And the goal is that you should be able to get to a stage where the dough isn't sticky, but it's still, still damp enough that you can roll it into a coil nicely, but not so dry that it's going to make the gnocchi a little too tough. So like I said, this is just basic potatoes, flour, a little bit of salt, and an egg. So now that it's sort of getting to the drier stage, but it still can accept some more flour, now I'm going to start to take away the spatula and work my fingers into the dough. So I'm dusting. I have one hand that's kind of clean and one hand that's working the dough. So the recipe, this is about 1.5 pounds of potatoes and about 2 cups or so of flour. Well, you're going to find that maybe you need a little bit more flour, maybe you need a little bit less. It all kind of depends on the potato or the potato. I just remember like cooking with my grandmother. You know, you try to get the recipe from her and like, well, how many cups and how many this? And she would just be like, I know it's right when it's right. So there, you'll know it's right when it's right. Right now, this kind of has still like a mashed potato consistency. You can see it's still kind of sticking to my hands. So I want it to be able to, you know, hold a shape when I roll it, but again, not be too tough. And we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm gonna get it a little bit more, and the next step will be rolling. All right, so I've dusted my work surface. This is where sort of like your clay skills really come in to play, because this is just like if you're wedging up the clay, getting it ready to go on the wheel. So just a little bit of flour so it's not going to stick. Just making sure that it's incorporated in. So my goal is to have something that is holding together, but is also not too sticky and not too stiff. So this is pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this rest for a little bit, let the flour and the potatoes kind of soak into one another, and then we will begin the actual process of the rolling and the marking and then the eating. All right. All right, I just want to go over those last steps again. So you can see where I can handle the dough, almost said clay, pretty easily. It's not sticking. You can see where there's like a little potato lump there. I didn't mash it very well, but so rolling a coil, gentle even pressure from the center, moving out, gentle even pressure. So again, you want just a nice like fat snake, using my thumb as a guide. So these about 1 inch or so. And again, you can leave them in the little nuggets, but it's much more fun to have a fork. And so this fork not only is it my favorite to eat with, but you can see where the tines are a little bit wider, a little more spaced apart. So you can just go bloop, bloop. They do have paddles, like grooved paddles that have ridges that you can push the gnocchi into. I have a set of those that I turned into a clay tool paddle, so not going to be using that. But the fork is just as easy. And I'm just going to put them on my tray and either eat or freeze for later. The other thing you can do, if you want to, is you can roll each individual little nugget into a ball and then do the impression. It's just going to give you sort of a more rounded form and look more like a little baby grub. It's up to you. You know, hey, what else are you going to do? We're all isolated. And so there is my pan of gnocchi ready to be boiled. And here are my beasts who are ready for dinner and are being slightly impatient. All right, so I have boiling salted water, and I put the gnocchi in there, and they're done when they float. So these ones are done, but I'm going to take some of the water from the pasta water, and I'm going to add it to my sauce, which is caramelized onions and mushrooms and chopped spinach. And then I added some cottage cheese because I know how much I love that. Also some garlic and pesto. So it's sort of like a creamy Alfredo-y, but there's also extra protein.